Nobody becomes a hero on purpose. You don't wake up, stretch your arms, drink your coffee, and think, today's the day I saved somebody's life. It just happens. 1 second you're living your normal, boring, everyday life, and the next second, everything changes. For you, for someone else, forever. This is the story of Marcus Webb, a single dad from Columbus, Ohio, a man who was just trying to get through the week, pay his bills, feed his 2 kids, maybe, just maybe, get a full night of sleep for once. And on one random Thursday evening, Marcus made a split-second decision that he didn't even think about. He just moved. He just acted. Because that's who he was. That decision, it didn't just save a life. It completely changed his. Stay with me, because this story is going to hit you somewhere deep. Let me paint the picture for you. Marcus Webb, 38 years old, former Army mechanic, honorably discharged after 8 years of service, came home to Columbus, Ohio, to raise his 2 kids, Daniel, who was 11, and Sophia, who was 8, after his wife passed away from cancer 3 years earlier. He was doing it alone. No backup, no family close by, just him, 2 kids, a 2-bedroom apartment on the east side of Columbus, and a job working ground crew at a small regional airfield called Rickenbacker Cargo Terminal. His shift was 4 p.m. to midnight, 6 days a week. He made $19 an hour. After taxes, after daycare costs for Sophia's after-school program, after groceries and rent, he was left with almost nothing. Some weeks, nothing wasn't even enough. But Marcus didn't complain. That wasn't his style. He was the kind of guy who packed 2 peanut butter sandwiches for dinner, so his kids could eat the actual meal he cooked. The kind of dad who helped with homework at 11 p.m. after a full shift. Still smelling like jet fuel, still smiling. His coworkers liked him. Didn't know much about his personal life. He kept to himself. Clocked in. Did his job. Clocked out. Nobody knew what he was carrying. And then came the night of September 14th. It was a Thursday. Overcast sky. Temperature dropping fast. Marcus was in the middle of a routine shift, guiding a small private jet toward its hangar after landing. Standard stuff. He'd done it 1,000 times. The jet was a Cessna Citation X. A beautiful aircraft. Private. Expensive. The kind of plane that costs more than most people's houses per hour of fuel. Inside that jet was a man named Robert Calloway, 61 years old, founder and CEO of Calloway Group, a holding company based out of Dallas, Texas, that owned 47 businesses across real estate, logistics, healthcare, and tech. Self-made billionaire. Started with nothing, built everything. One of those people whose story you read about and think, there's no way that's real. But on that Thursday night, Robert wasn't thinking about his companies. He wasn't on the phone. He wasn't checking his portfolio. He was trying not to die. The jet had developed a hydraulic failure on approach. The pilots got it down, barely. The landing was rough. Really rough. And the moment the wheels hit the tarmac, something in the landing gear gave out. The jet skidded sideways. Hard. The left wing clipped the ground and fuel started leaking instantly. And then, the smoke started. Marcus saw it happen in real time. From about 40 yards away, he watched the plane come in wrong. Watched it skid, watched the wing go down, and he felt his stomach drop because he knew. He knew what leaking fuel and a hot engine meant. He had maybe 60 to 90 seconds, maybe less. His supervisor was already on the radio calling emergency services. The 2 other ground crew guys on shift, they froze. Not because they were cowards, because the human brain, when it sees something like that, just stops. It needs a second to catch up to reality. Marcus didn't give his brain that second. He ran, full sprint, toward the jet, toward the smoke, toward the thing that every survival instinct in your body screams at you to run away from. He got to the jet door. It was jammed. The frame had bent on impact. He grabbed the handle and pulled. Nothing. He pulled again. Nothing. He stepped back, braced his foot against the fuselage, and pulled with everything he had. The door gave. Inside, one of the pilots was conscious and already trying to crawl out. Marcus grabbed him, pulled him clear, and handed him off to a colleague, who had finally snapped out of the freeze and run over. Marcus went back in. Robert Calloway was in the back of the cabin, seatbelt still on. There was a small fire starting near the rear, not big yet, but growing. Robert was conscious but dazed. The impact had hit him hard. He was trying to unbuckle his seatbelt, but his hands weren't cooperating. Marcus didn't say much. He just moved to him, hit the buckle release, got Robert's arm over his shoulder, and pulled him toward the door. Robert later said he remembered two things about those seconds inside the jet: the heat and the fact that this stranger, this man he had never seen before in his life, did not hesitate, not even for a moment. They got out. They were maybe 30 feet away when the rear of the jet caught fully, and the fire spread fast. Emergency crews arrived within 4 minutes. But if Marcus had waited for them, Robert Calloway would not have made it out. That's not a dramatic exaggeration. That's what the fire investigator confirmed afterward. Marcus helped the paramedics, made sure both pilots were being taken care of, gave his account to the airfield supervisor, and then, because this is just the kind of man he was, he asked if he could finish his shift. He wanted to finish his shift. His supervisor sent him home. Marcus didn't think much of it that night. He drove home, checked on Daniel and Sophia. They were asleep. He stood in the doorway of their room for a minute, the way tired parents do, just looking at them, just grateful. He made himself a bowl of cereal, went to bed. He had no idea who Robert Calloway was. He didn't recognize the name, didn't know about the 47 companies or the billions or any of it. To Marcus, he had helped an older man off a plane. That was it. But Robert Calloway knew exactly what had happened. And Robert Calloway did not forget things like that. The next morning, Friday, September 15th, Marcus woke up at 7 a.m. to get the kids ready for school. He opened his front door to call for the morning paper. Old habit, and stopped dead in his tracks. In the parking lot of his apartment complex, there were 4 brand new Cadillac Escalades. Black, fully loaded, with a man in a suit standing next to them holding an envelope. Marcus stared. The man in the suit said, "Are you Marcus Webb?" Marcus said yes. The man handed him the envelope and said, "Mr. Calloway asked me to deliver this personally." Marcus opened the envelope right there on his doorstep. Inside was a handwritten letter. Not typed. Handwritten. In the letter, Robert Calloway wrote, "Last night you walked into fire for a stranger. You didn't know my name. You didn't know what I had. You just helped a human being who needed help. I've spent 35 years building things. I've met thousands of people. Very few have shown me what you showed me last night. The cars are yours, for you and whatever you need them for. But I'd like to do more. Please call me." There was a phone number at the bottom. Marcus stood there on his doorstep, in his old gray sweatpants and worn-out house slippers, holding that letter. Daniel came up behind him and tugged his sleeve. "Dad, what's that?" Marcus didn't answer right away. He just looked out at those 4 Cadillacs sitting in the morning light. Then he looked down at his son and said, "Something good, buddy. Something really good." Marcus called the number. Robert Calloway picked up on the second ring. They talked for over an hour. Robert asked Marcus everything about his kids, about his background, about what he wanted for his life. Not in a nosy way, in a genuine way. The way someone talks when they actually want to know. By the end of that call, Robert had offered Marcus a full-time role as Director of Ground Operations at Calloway Group's private aviation division, a position that came with a salary of $180,000 a year, full benefits, a relocation package to Dallas if Marcus wanted it, and a college fund set up immediately for both Daniel and Sophia. Marcus cried. He tried not to. He's a tough guy, Army mechanic, single dad. But he cried. He told Robert he didn't want charity. Robert told him it wasn't charity. It was the most qualified hire he'd ever made. Because the one thing money couldn't teach anyone was the thing Marcus had shown at that airfield. The willingness to run toward the fire when everyone else stood still. That, Robert said, was exactly the kind of person he needed running things. Marcus took the job. He and the kids moved to Dallas in November. Robert helped them find a house, a real house, with a yard, in a good school district. Daniel joined a football team. Sophia made 3 best friends within a week. Marcus started his new role and, by every account from colleagues, was exactly as good at it as Robert expected. But the part of this story that hit people the hardest, the part that spread online and made millions of people stop scrolling, wasn't the cars, wasn't the job, wasn't even the rescue itself. It was something small, something Marcus said in an interview a few months later. A reporter asked him, "When you ran toward that jet, were you scared?" Marcus thought about it for a second. Then he said, "Yeah, I was scared. But I kept thinking, what if that's somebody's dad in there? What if that's somebody's reason to come home? I'm a dad. I know what it means to be somebody's reason to come home. I couldn't just stand there." That quote broke people open because it wasn't about bravery. It wasn't about heroism. It wasn't about anything except one father. Understanding another human being's value before he even knew who that human being was. That's the thing about real goodness. It doesn't calculate. It doesn't ask what's in it for me. It just moves. There's a version of this story where Marcus stands back, where he lets the emergency crews handle it, where he protects himself, reasonably, logically, understandably. Nobody would have blamed him. Nobody would have even known. But Marcus Webb didn't do that. And because he didn't, two kids who already lost their mom didn't lose their dad. And one billionaire who had everything money could buy finally found something it couldn't. Proof that real human decency still exists. Robert Calloway said something in a later interview that stuck with a lot of people. He said, "I've written $1,000 checks to charity and felt nothing. I've funded entire hospital wings. But when that man came back into that jet for me, a complete stranger, that changed what I believe about people. I was getting cynical. I'm not anymore. One man's decision, one moment, changed two families, changed one billionaire's view of the world, and reminded the rest of us that the most powerful thing you can ever be is the person who shows up when it costs you something." Marcus Webb showed up in a parking lot, in gray sweatpants and worn-out slippers, with 4 Cadillacs and a future he never saw coming, and 2 kids who get to keep their dad. That's the whole story, and it's enough.